I think Keir Starmer's right. He is going further and faster. He is pushing the number of small boats to levels we've never seen before. They're up almost 50% on the same time last year, over 80% on the same point in 2023. He's going further and faster and putting new taxes on businesses, national insurance tax rises, breaking Labour's manifesto commitments, going further and faster at taking winter fuel payments away from pensioners, smashing family farms up and down the country, refusing to give people a national inquiry on the rape gang. 75% of people in this country want to see that. Labour MPs refusing to give those girls the truth and justice they deserve. I just think Keir Starmer looks hopelessly adrift from the rest of the country. And it's not just me, Michelle. The polling on Keir Starmer, his net rating, he's basically minus 40. That's where Meghan Markle is in the net favourability ratings of the royal family. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. Keir Starmer doesn't understand the mood of the country. He's making a lot of the issues that are driving people into reform, he's making worse. And what Labour MPs, lastly, have failed to realise is they're painting reform today as the radical extreme option, right? They haven't understood mass uncontrolled immigration is the extreme policy. That's the extreme policy. And people in this country have had enough of it.
They certainly have. You guys get in touch with me on a daily basis. I can feel the fury that comes through each night at 6 o'clock when we are sharing this moment together. Is he the right man for the job, Keir Starmer?
Absolutely. After the chaos of previous Conservative Prime Ministers, it was absolutely necessary that the British people wanted someone who's calm, steady, wasn't going to react to every event in a dramatic or emotional way. And that's the right way of governing the country. There's a huge difference between opposition, principled opposition as it may be, and being in government. And what he demonstrates is the stability, the calmness that's necessary to take these difficult decisions in government.
Sorry, Geoff, sorry. Do you think people out there feel that the country is stable and calm? Because most people I speak to out there in the country are desperately concerned about the decline of Britain, about a country they no longer recognise, borders out of control, a state that recently is using taxpayers' money to make housing available for people who break our laws, a Labour government which, to be frank, doesn't seem like it's on the side of hard-working, law-abiding British people.
Well, I recognise your analysis and I understand why you're saying that, and I get that from people, there's no doubt. But the solution is to make sure the economy grows, so there's more money available for health and education, more money for keeping people in work, more money to make sure that this country takes its rightful place at the international table.
But the number one reason why voters across the Labour heartlands have just gone with Reform and Nigel Farage is immigration. It is things like the small boats. Labour does not have a credible plan for stopping the boats and fixing the borders. So where is Keir Starmer today saying, instead of just saying, I get it, how about leave the ECHR, provide an active deterrent, stop giving welfare to people who are breaking our laws, stop making housing available, moving to offshore processing.
But it's exactly that kind of extremism that the British people reject. It's an extreme view.
Geoff, controlling borders is not extremism.
Leaving the ECHR would put us in the same boat as
Canada,
Russia,
Australia.
No, on the contrary. It would put us in a position of extreme reaction to the rule of law. And that's not something that any government has ever contemplated in the past. And the reality is that we need to ensure that we have not only a democratic society, but one that observes the rule of law. And if you go back to your point about everyone feels strongly about the boats. Everyone wants to see controlled immigration. But the reality is that you have to do that with a strong economy.
Geoff, I'm sorry.
Much more important.
I'm not going to take...
You were telling me about what people think.
I'm not going to take lectures about the rule of law.
I'm not giving you a lecture.
When we have a Labour government that is willingly allowing 158,000 people into our country whose first act on entering our country is to break our laws. And then giving them homes and welfare, and you sit there giving me a lecture about the rule of law.
I'm not giving you a lecture about the rule of law. I'm telling you that we are a country that prizes democracy, prizes freedom of speech, but also has always observed the rule of law. And that is why it is important. It's not the case that the British people regard the boats coming in as the most important issue, as you're suggesting.
Immigration is the second top issue in this country.
What they regard as the most important issue is economic security, making sure that this country has a strong economy, that there are jobs for people, that there's training and education, a decent health service. Those are the things that matter to the British.
Geoff, I'm sorry, with all due respect, people out there are not just talking about the economy. They are talking about the hundreds of thousands of people coming into our country who are breaking our laws.
What I said
what you should do,
that is more important.
What I think you are symbolising is why the Labour movement is so out of touch with the country. Unless you fix the borders, it's not extremist to actually say the first thing a nation state should do is control who comes in and out of that nation state.
It's extremist to leave the European Convention on Human Rights.
No, it isn't.
That is an extreme
Everybody
point of view.
across Europe
Vladimir Putin.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
That's the position.
Right. So
the two countries that have left the ECHR are Belarus and Russia.
And lots of other countries around the world are not in the ECHR.
But they're in similar organisations with similar commitment to the rule of law.
Look, it is not. I'll tell you what's extreme. What's extreme is allowing criminals and terrorists, like the Syrian terrorist who broke our laws, came over on a small boat, and was allowed to remain in the country because he appealed to the ECHR. And so the courts are putting foreign criminals ahead of British people.
What's the alternative?
I've told you.
Some sort of populist decision by people like you.
Populist decision.
Well, that's what you're saying.
I'm going to give you my alternative. Do you want to hear my alternative? Here's an alternative. We leave the European Convention on Human Rights. We reform the Human Rights Act. We have offshore processing, and we make it clear that we're going to put the British people ahead of foreign criminals and illegal migrants. If you put that before the British people, the vast majority of them will say, yes, actually, I want to live in a secure country. And if you continue to avoid this issue, here's what's going to happen. You won't just be looking at Runcorn and Helsby. Nigel Farage and Reform will take every seat in Labour's Red Wall. They will run through Wales next year, and you and I will be sat here, and you'll be saying, what about the economy? And I'll be saying, immigration matters. People want control.
Well, coming back to these election results, one of the interesting consequences, and it's consistent with what you're saying, is that Nigel Farage and Reform now have to run a number of councils. They've made certain promises, certain commitments about what they will do. They've never run anything in the past. Now they can be judged on their success or failure in running those councils. And we'll see. And it will give the electorate the opportunity of seeing whether the kind of extremist policies you're describing are actually successful.
See, I've got to say, many people listening to what you're saying, Geoff, so you're supporting economic stability and economic growth. Many people will be shouting at their tellies. Please, can you ask him, Michelle, do you think that we are more or less likely to achieve economic stability by spending millions of pounds? I think the latest estimate is £8 million a day, putting people up in hotels. Whether or not we are more or less likely to achieve a better health service when we keep increasing the demand by uncontrolled immigration, because it seems that what you want to achieve, which is noble, you don't seem to be taking into account the impact on your desire by the concern that Matt's raising, which is uncontrolled immigration.
I totally agree with you, by the way, about hotels. No one wants to see people paid for by the taxpayer living in hotels.
Yeah, but we are seeing that.
There is a reason for them being in hotels. The reason is that the Conservative government stopped hearing immigration cases. And the result was those people had to go somewhere before their case was determined.
Sorry, that's just not true, Geoff.
It is true.
The Labour government overturned the Rwanda plan and then overturned the Illegal Migration Act.
The Rwanda plan, let's be clear, the Rwanda plan had nothing to do with people in hotels. The Rwanda plan was supposed to deter people. The only people it deterred were two people who volunteered to go to Rwanda.
Labour never even bothered to wait to see if it made a difference.
On the issue. We raise the issue of hotels. You then talk about Rwanda. Well, the people were already here. I don't want British taxpayers having to pay for people to stay in hotels. But the way we resolve that that is by making sure those cases are determined quickly and accurately.
And let's just be clear by what you mean by that. So we won't fix the borders, so more people will come over and we'll have to put them up in hotels.
We'll fix the borders.
OK, sure, but you've not explained how. So let's just say, OK.
The government has a very clear policy.
Sorry, can I just finish? Here's what the Labour government is doing. People out there need to know this. You say we'll deal with the asylum claims. What you're doing, the Labour government is accepting 2/3 of people who apply for asylum. You might as well put a big neon sign on the White Cliffs of Dover saying, come on in, and we'll give you a free house.
Don't get carried away by your own rhetoric.
That's what's happening.
It is not the Labour government. It is the legal system. It is judges. It's the rule of law.
Yeah, but that's why he wants to
You want to overturn the rule of law.
Sure.
Do you want sort of local dictators taking these decisions? Is that what you want?
Geoff, listen to yourself. Come on. I want to uphold the rule of law for the law-abiding, hard-working, tax-paying majority of people in this country who are sick of having their laws flouted by illegal migrants and foreign criminals.
Well, what do you think? There you go. Robust debate. That's what we like on Jubes & Co. You can join that conversation as well in 2.